3 people passed this year that have been an important part of the building of the Veterans Memorial and certainly of the Veterans Day ceremony. Patty Wilmore, who is the choir director who always got the school choir for us, and you may notice that we don't have a choir this year. We decided in honor of Patty we would take some of the recordings from the previous choir that she had last 2 years, which happened to be Mountain View High School Choir, and we would play them so you can hear them singing from the heavens, and I'm sure Patty is up there directing them. The second person is our bugler who blows taps for us every year, Kenneth Weir. And so we will also be playing taps, and you will be looking up here to honor Kenneth, but he will not be with us, but you will hear him also playing from the heavens. And the third person we will be honoring is Dave Knapp, and Dave's wife, Kay. Will you stand up, Kay? Dave Knapp is our previous city manager. He was city manager from 2000 to 2012. He was an incredible help when Donna and I decided to raise $1 million and build this memorial. Without his support, I don't think it would have gotten done. He happens to also be a veteran, Air Force veteran. So Kay will be carrying a bouquet up to the sculpture at that part of our ceremony in honor of Dave. So I wanted to tell you those things ahead of time because we've woven them into the program so that they are part of the program. And while you continue to be seated, before we get started, we're going to play a song that the choir asked us to play at the beginning to honor Patty. And the name of it, I forget, the name of it is, hold on, the name of it is For Good. And they explained it to me that just having her amongst them in their life changed their lives, and that's what this is about. So can we hear that, please? And please continue to be seated, and then we'll start the formal part of our program.
Must learn, and we are led to those
please stand. It remains standing for Amazing Grace, Parade of the Honor Guards, the presentation of the colors, and singing of the national anthem. Please join me as we sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled
Please be seated. Every year since we started this program, since we completed building the memorial in 2007, I reached back to an old friend, not so old, but a friend I've known for a long time, better said, Captain Joe Veramontes from Santa Clara County Fire Department, since retired, but comes every year to start our program in prayer. Joe?
Well, we have another great day. Isn't this fantastic that we've come together, and it's awesome. And everybody that's come together to honor our veterans and active military personnel. You know, I was going over to Pete's Coffee today to go, start my day and get my wife her coffee, my tea. And everybody's just standing in line. They're looking at their phones while they're in line, and they're getting ready to get their coffee. And I saw this gentleman. He was dressed up, looked like he was going golfing. I said, "You going golfing?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to Cordoval to go golfing." And I left there, and I thought, some folks are just going through their day. Today is a day that we can stop and think and really thank our veterans and active military people and just thank them for what they do, the service they provide. And I was telling the guys from the fire service who I used to work with, I came over here, I had 2 grandkids that were just screaming in my house. And I'm so thankful to be here right now. I'm telling you, this is a jewel. So veterans, active military personnel, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Yeah, yep. Thank you for your service. And let's just stop. Let's just forget about everything that we have going on. I'll forget about the screaming grandkids, and let's just take this in today. Let's take it in and just give honor to those that we're here for. Let me talk to God, and then we'll start this. Lord God, thank you again for this time to get together. I thank you that we can come together and just set things aside. Just help us to kind of be focused right now. Help us to just honor the veterans and the active military people for what they do and how they serve and really everything about them. Lord God, we just pray that you would bless this time, that you would be with us as we do that. And Lord, just continue to watch over active military personnel right now. I pray that your hands would be over them. And just continue to bless us and allow us to have a great time right now. For I ask this in your Son's holy name, amen. Thank you.
I love you.
I'd like to introduce a few people in the audience, some of our elected officials who are with us today, starting with our Mayor, Stephen Scharf, our Vice Mayor, Liang Chow, Congressman Rod Sinks, excuse me, not Congressman, City Councilman, I gave you a promotion, right? City Councilman Rod Sinks, City Councilman John Willey, and City Councilman Darcy Paul. And our city attorney, our new city manager, her first time at this event, I believe, Deborah Feng. We also have Congressman Ro Khanna with us, and he's going to speak in a few minutes and give us some important message. But first, I'd like to introduce the people we're really here for today. So we have a lot of veterans in the audience, and I'd like to start. I know we still have some World War II veterans that come every year. Would our World War II veterans stand up? And if you can't stand up, just give us a big wave so we can say thank you. Thank you. We so look forward to seeing you every year. Would all the remaining veterans in the audience please stand up so we can say thank you for your service? I think we have some active duty military. So would our active duty military please stand up? I know we have one sitting right here. And when Donna and I designed this memorial for veterans and active duty military, we decided there's also another important part of our community that we usually see every day that helps protect us, and that's our first responders. So please, let's welcome and say thank you to all our first responders who are here today. You know, they come every year. They've come every year since I've asked them. They bring their trucks and their flag, and they are part of our honor guard. This year, our military honor guard is from the University of Santa Clara. It's the Army ROTC honor guard that joined us. And they actually were here for our dedication also, so welcome back. Congressman Ro Khanna has an important message for us, and I was going to give it. He could not make it today, but he has rearranged his schedule so he can be here. Let me tell you a little bit about our congressman if you don't know him. Congressman Ro Khanna represents California's 17th congressional district, and that does include Cupertino. He's serving his second term, and he sits on the Armed Services Committee, so you know that he and his staff are very committed to the armed services and to our first responders. In fact, I know Tom Pike, his district director, I've seen him here almost every year since we started. So please join me in welcoming Congressman Ro Khanna.
Thank you. I want to thank Mayor Sandy James for your leadership and your commitment to this event every year and your commitment to our veterans. Please give her a round of applause. I'm tremendously honored to be here. There is no higher service to our country than wearing the uniform, and I just want to first thank all of the veterans here today and the active military personnel. If we could give them another round of applause. As you probably know, to my left is a statute of eternal vigilance for Matthew Axelson of Cupertino and his fellow guardian, James Sue. Mayor James was involved, as many folks, in having this statute. Navy SEAL Matthew Axelson of Cupertino served our country with tremendous honor and distinction. making the ultimate sacrifice while deployed in Afghanistan in 2005. Our entire community, our entire district, our entire nation are in his gratitude. Matthew's parents, Donna and Corky, are here today, and I couldn't be prouder to honor their son. Donna and Corky, would you please stand? Thank you for your son's service and your entire family's sacrifice. I'm therefore humbled to introduce a bill to name Matthew's hometown post office after him. If this bill passes both chambers, and we're quite hopeful it will, and is signed into law by the President, the Cupertino Post Office will be renamed the Petty Officer Second Class Seal Matthew G. Axelson Post Office Building. And it will help us honor and remember Matthew's ultimate sacrifice and honor the family and show how proud we are that he is a Cupertino native. I want to thank again Mayor James for your leadership. I want to thank all the veterans and just express how humbled I am to be here in this ceremony. Thank you very much.
That's a no, I don't want to speak in sign language between Donna and I. Oh, she changed her mind.
So just quick, there's some Gold Star families here also. And sometimes when I say something will pop up and I'll say, well, I'm a Gold Star mom. And people say, what is that? And I'm always taken back a bit. But a Gold Star family is a family whose son or daughter was killed in action. And so James Suh's family every year, his sister Claudia, brother-in-law Chris, and niece Aubrey and nephew Matthew come every year. And then this year, for the first year, Gary and Kathy, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Bube, whose son was in the SWIC, which is that fast boat that supports the SEALs. Are there any other Gold Star families here?
There's one raising their hand back there.
Okay. Well, thank you, because it's good to have you here.
And without knowing it, she gave me a wonderful cue. You must come back next year, because next year Donna and I have decided to do something special for Gold Star families. So you must come next year to our ceremony, and if you know any Gold Star families, be sure that you bring them with you. Thank you, Congressman Khanna. And now I would like our mayor to come forward and say a few words. Stephen Scharf.
Good morning. So as mayor of Cupertino, you receive a lot of requests to speak at various events, and former Mayor James can vouch for that. But being asked to speak at Veterans Day ceremony is truly an honor. I have so much respect for those of you who have served our country. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your sacrifice. Our country and our city are better off today because of dedicated and brave people like you. Veterans Day hits home for me. My stepfather, my late stepfather, was a merchant marine. My brother's a Navy veteran. And my wife is an Army veteran who served as a nurse and later in the Army Reserves, rising to the rank of major. I feel blessed not only to share this day with her, but every day with her. And I know that not everyone here is so lucky. And that's why Veterans Day is so important. So let us stand united to pay our respects for those who have served and reflect on the heroism of those who died in service to our country. Today, America is divided and fractured, but we can put that all aside for one day and come together for our veterans. Let their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to sacrifice be an inspiration and an example to all of us. Thank you.
Learn something new every day. I did not know that your wife was a veteran. So please tell her thank you from me. We are always very, very fortunate to have speakers who are willing and want to and are eager to speak at our Veterans Day ceremony. And over the years, we've had some amazing speakers. This year, our first speaker is making a return visit. He was a speaker 5 years ago, and fortunately, he thought enough of our ceremony and our community to come back and speak again. The Honorable Francis J. Harvey is the 19th Secretary of the United States Army. The Honorable Francis Harvey served as the 19th Secretary under President George W. Bush from 2004 to March of 2007. A graduate of the University of Notre Dame and the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Harvey's doctorate is in material science. He was a White House Fellow and served in various professional, management, and executive positions with Westinghouse, including Chief Operating Officer. He was also Director and Vice Chairman of Duratech in the Carlyle Group, specializing in the treatment of nuclear materials. As Secretary of the Army, he supervised a budget of $98.5 billion and over 1 million soldiers and their families. Together with General Pete Schumacher, the Chief of Staff of the Army, Dr. Harvey led the effort to increase the Army's warfighting capabilities. His efforts to up-armor the entire fleet of 16,000 Humvees resulted in the saving of hundreds of lives in the combat theater. We are honored to have Dr. Harvey with He is here. His lovely wife, Mary, is also here. They live in Los Gatos. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Francis J. Harvey.
Honored guest, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Sandy, for that kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me once again to participate in the annual Veterans Day ceremony at the moving and meaningful Cupertino Veterans Memorial. As Sandy mentioned, I gave a speech here at the Veterans Day ceremony in 2014. Memorials like the one here at Cupertino, as well as those across the nation and many countries throughout the world, serve as constant reminders of the selfless service that the members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marines have made on behalf of our great nation. My hometown of Los Gatos followed Cupertino's lead and built a Veterans Memorial called the Flame of Liberty at the town center in Los Gatos. This memorial also honors first responders and local heroes Todd Beamer and Mark Bingham, who helped bring down United Flight 93 on 9/11. I had the privilege of speaking at the dedication of the Los Gatos Memorial on June 15th of this year. The speech was entitled "The Selfless Service of Our Veterans" and is very relevant to today's ceremony, as well as all Veterans Day ceremonies that remember and honor our veterans. I would like to spend a few minutes this morning and present the highlights of that speech. The main part of the speech begins as follows. I would like to take a few minutes this morning to reflect on the importance of selfless service of our veterans, not only to our country, but to the rest of the world. Simply put, more than 1 billion people worldwide and billions yet to be born live or will live in peace and freedom because our veterans, as well as those of our allies, fought or died in foreign lands. And once the peace was achieved, our country helped rebuild destroyed cities, economies, and societies. In this regard, we Americans should be very proud of the type of country we are because, Except for the Spanish-American War, we have never retained 1 square foot of any country that we have defeated. The list of countries that today live in peace and freedom because of our veterans and those of our allies is impressive and quite long. Besides our own country and those of our major allies, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, the countries we helped liberate include France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Greece, Turkey, the Philippines, the Republic of Korea, Bosnia, Kosovo, Croatia, Slovenia, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Furthermore, the countries we defeated in World War II, principally Germany, Austria, Italy, and Japan, were liberated from authoritarian regimes. And finally, let's not forget, as a result of winning the Cold War, a number of other countries are now free democracies. They include Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. That is a list of 37 countries, or over 20% of all the countries in the world today. My first realization of the true meaning of selfless service occurred on a trip that my wife Mary and I took to France in 2003. During that trip, we visited Normandy and walked the beaches and battlefields. At the end of the visit, we stopped by the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial, which sits on a cliff overlooking Omaha Beach and the English Channel. As we got out of the car and walked through a row of trees, we looked up and there they were, over 9,000 crosses and stars of David, all lined up in parallel rows. I will never forget that sight. As we walked through the cemetery, we both fully realized and appreciated what our men and women in uniform did in selfless service to our country during World War II. We had a similar reaction when we first visited the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. The courage, bravery, and persistence of the members of the military in those 2 wars was, in one word, incredible. I ended the dedication speech by thanking all those individuals whose commitment and hard work made the Flame of Liberty Memorial a reality. Let me end this speech in the same way by thanking all those individuals whose dedication and hard work made the Cupertino Veterans Memorial a reality. Thank you very much.
I was privileged to be at that dedication and heard that speech, so I was delighted when Dr. Harvey asked if he could read excerpts from it today. I always found it very moving and very relevant. Our second speaker today is someone I also have heard speak at Reese Across America last year, the Honorable Francis J. Oops, excuse me, wrong page. Sorry about that. Here we go. Rear Admiral Winston Copeland, United States Navy, retired. Rear Admiral Copeland entered the Navy in 1965, having graduated from Virginia Polytechnic Institute with a BSEE degree and a commission in 1967. He earned 2 Masters of Science degrees, one from USC and the other from the Naval War College. Admiral Copeland's distinguished career as a Navy fighter pilot included duty as an instructor at the prestigious Navy Fighters Weapons School known as Top Gun. He attended the U.S. Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base and served as a test pilot at the Naval Air Test Center during the initial flight testing of the FA-18A Hornet. He commanded Fighter Squadron 102, Carrier Air Wing 1 aboard USS America, and the aircraft carrier USS America. Admiral Copeland has flown over 300 combat missions with over 1,300 carrier-arrested landings and more than 5,000 flight hours in 30 different types of aircraft. He has received the Silver Star for Gallantry in Action, the Bronze Star, 2 Defense Superior Service Medals, 3 Legion of Merit Awards, and numerous other commendation medals. He retired in 2000 as a Rear Admiral, last serving as the commander of the Theodore Roosevelt Battle Group. Please join me in welcoming Admiral Franklin.
Secretary Harvey, Congressman Rokana, Mayor Scharf, City Council members, Donnie and Corky Axelson, the former Mayor Sandy James, officers, men and women, and veterans of the armed forces. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, top of the morning to you. Thank you for giving me the privilege of addressing you this hallowed day. I feel so honored. Today is a holiday known as Veterans Day, and at the end of World War I, it was known as Armistice Day. Congressional legislation passed in 1938 made November 11th the day dedicated to the cause of world peace, as today is known as Veterans Day for all Americans and all wars. Many years ago, Thomas Paine so eloquently stated that those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Many of us here today have borne that burden and experienced that fatigue of waging war in order to bring about peace. To those present and past, I salute you on behalf of all Americans. Make no mistake, none of us ever are excited about going to war. If you were, I would tell you you've got a few loose screws upstairs, or you're simply carrying one brick short of a full load. Don't let any combat veteran tell you he or she has never been scared. None of us ever look forward to going to war, but when called upon, we did our very best. Having said that, let no nation confuse our perseverance, patience with the fear of war, or our unwillingness to meet our responsibilities. Military strength is not an end in itself. We certainly do not glory in war. In the end, the only way to maintain the peace is to be prepared in the final extreme to fight for our country, and fight we will. As General Mattis so eloquently stated in the book he just completed, call sign Chaos, there is no better friend and no worse enemy than a United States Marine. We need to remain strong. We need to keep our military defenses up. We must never forget that the strength of our arms has brought us to this point, and it is the strength of our arms that will continue to ensure the peace. America's war veterans have fought for the security of this nation, for the safety of our friends, and for the peace of the world. They humbled tyrants and defended the innocent and liberated the oppressed. Across our planet, you will find entire nations that once lived in fear, where men and women still tell of the day when Americans came and set them free. As Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. As a nation, we strive to be vigilant, and as citizens by supporting our men and women in uniform who continue to stand the watch. We recognize our brave soldiers today and pay them great tribute. There's a special group of veterans today which deserves recognition. I'm referring to those veterans who fought for America and who remained listed as missing in action. We, the veterans who have returned, and indeed all of America, have an obligation to account for these missing comrades in arms. We owe this to their families, to our future generations, but most of all, we owe it to our buddies. Let me share a story with you. Shortly after having arrived in San Jose in the summer of 2000, my wife Beth, a 27-year Army veteran, who is sadly no longer with us, she and I were waiting dinner in the back bar at Original Joe's down in San Jose. The gentleman sitting to her right was expounding on the virtue of Thomas Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation. And he stated, I do not think that our youth today can do what our forefathers had done in World War II. Beth said, Sir, You should talk to my husband. He's sitting right here. I jumped in with both hands and both feet, and I told him of my background and recent experiences with young men and women at sea on a variety of ships and in a multitude of assignments. On many occasions, as the commanding officer, I invited civilians to come to sea for a day and a night to observe their Navy at work. As each invitee observed our sailors conscientiously pursuing their tasks on the flight deck or the hangar deck or the galleys, they asked me, how do you train these folks to do work so conscientiously? In fact, what is lost on many Americans is that our youth are solid citizens with a boatload of the right stuff. You don't read about them in our media. They're not newsworthy. However, let me tell you, I have literally trusted my life to them on many occasions, whether it's off flying a jet off the catapult, making an arrested landing on the carrier, or simply making sure my jet is working completely to its capacity. As a Navy and a nation, we have very much to be proud of. Americans are a peaceful people. This nation has always gone to war reluctantly, and I believe always for a noble cause, perceived or otherwise. I want to share with you an event that happened to me in France in December of 1993. I had the privilege of commanding the aircraft carrier America, and I had asked permission to spend Christmas in port in Marseille, France. This short stint changed my outlook on the French people completely. A French veteran from World War II by the name of Pierre invited me and my wife Beth to have dinner with him in his home. And Pierre shared the following story that evening. He said, you know, as a young boy, I was sitting on my dad's lap in the summer of 1944, and he and I were watching Americans land in southern France and march north to rid my country of the Axis powers. Pierre said as a young boy, he looked up to see tears streaming down his dad's face. And ladies and gentlemen, that evening, as Pierre's telling me this story, tears are streaming down his face as well. He could not have been more grateful for what Americans did for his country. I have had the privilege of living all over the world, and I love America second to none. I love this land more than I can tell you. We are indeed blessed, and we should be so grateful for what we have. And many of you are aware that I was born in Argentina, lived the majority of my youth overseas, joined the Navy after college, and continued to move around. I convey this only to tell you that each and every time I returned to this great land of ours, I appreciated how fortunate I was to be born an American. I am indeed blessed. Tonight, with our nation embroiled in the longest war in our history, Americans are keenly aware of our current struggles and sacrifices. Young Americans continue to die in Afghanistan. They have died securing our freedom, and their loss is terrible. The tragedies are borne especially by the families left behind. But in their hurt and in their loneliness, I want these families to know your loved ones served for a good cause and a just cause. They died in a distant land to fight terror, to advance freedom, and to protect America by keeping the war away from our shores. They did not live to be called veterans, but this nation will never forget their lives of service and all they did for us. In closing, our prayers are with those who wear our nation's cloth. They serve a tremendously unselfish cause and follow a great tradition handed down to them by American generations of veterans from every era. We owe them the life we know today, the command and the respect of the American people, and they have our immeasurable gratitude as they stand the watch tonight in a distant land or at sea far from our shores. Thank you again for the privilege of addressing you today. May God bless America and all who defend her.
Now we come to a part of our ceremony that everybody really, I know, enjoys. This is where we have 3 people carry bouquets to the sculpture of Matthew Axelson and James Suh, representing certainly all veterans and active duty military, but particularly special to us and to our community. This year, the first bouquet will be carried by Claudia Suh, who is sister to James, and she is here with her family today. The second will be carried by Kay Knapp, representing her family, the employees of the city, and certainly our community, who are very thankful to Dave for his service. And the third will be carried by Donna Axelson, of course, my partner as co-founder of this memorial, and representing Gold Star families, as well as saying thank you to her son. This year, I've asked Nick Pierce, who is Chief Petty Officer Nick Pierce, who grew up in Cupertino. His parents have come to every ceremony and every golf tournament since we dedicated this. I read an email from Nick at the opening ceremony, and he will be coming next year to speak, so you have to come back and hear him speak. But this year he's going to escort the ladies with their bouquets. So could we please have the music? And we'll start with Claudia.
When I get where I'm going, on the far side of the sky, the first thing that I'm gonna do is spread my wings and fly. I'm gonna land beside a lion and run my fingers through his mane, where I might find out what it's like to ride a drop of rain. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. I'm gonna walk with my granddaddy, and he'll match me step for step, and I'll tell him how I've missed him every minute since he left, and then I'll hug his neck. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. So much pain and so much darkness in this world we stumble through. All these questions I can't answer, and so much work to do. But when I get where I'm going, and I see my Maker's face, I'll stand forever in the light of His amazing grace. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears.
We do a wreath ceremony every year. This beautiful wreath from Cupertino florist. And every year we ask a different group to escort it to the Wall of Honor. The names on the Wall of Honor are people in our community who have died in the course of fighting as part of our armed forces. This year, I'd like to ask members of the 3 retirement communities that have come every single year since we started this to come forward, and they may need some help. So I'm going to ask our veterans and active duty and first responders to give them a hand. If you would come forward, and if our first responders will bring the wreath, please bring the wreath out so we can see it. So that would be Chateau Cupertino, Sunnyview, and the Forum. Can we have the music, please? Oh, and Kathleen Elliott, who organizes it every year. Just raise your hand if you need help. Can we play that song one more time? We have a lot of people who would like to do this. Aren't they wonderful? Let's give them a big hand, and I hope you all got a lot of pictures. Wonderful pictures. Okay, let's take a moment to reflect while they get their seats back. That was amazing, wasn't it? Next, I would like Navy Chaplain Diana Brady to come forward. Diana has been also with us since we did the dedication. It's nice that we have people that are so happy to be part of this ceremony that they come back year after year. Diana lives in Cupertino. She comes from a military family. Her son was in the Navy. I know over the years she's worried about him as he was deployed. But she's a wonderful friend and a good person to help us speak and say thank you. So please, Navy Chaplain Diana Brady.
"30 years ago this past week, commitment to duty, honor, and service in the cause of freedom brought down the Berlin Wall. In our own day, that same commitment continues to break down walls of oppression, violence, subjugation across the globe, as the power of life and liberty, which emboldens every human heart, gives rise to the unfailing hope that freedom might be embraced by every child of God and celebrated throughout the earth. Will you join me now in the spirit of prayer? Almighty and loving God, we give you thanks this day for our veterans and those in active service around the world, the guardians and defenders of this land and its people. We rejoice today for the blessings of liberty that we share as a free people, and we pray today for all those who have paid such a dear price for such a great and fragile gift, mindful that the precious gift of freedom has now been entrusted to us. We pray for healing for any in our military and first responder communities who are suffering in mind, body, or spirit as a result of their service, and for their families and loved ones who even now with those who suffer bear the burden of a shared sacrifice. We remember especially those from our community who have served and those who in their service gave their lives, protecting and defending their brothers in arms and their loved ones back home. Back home, simple words but with such depth of meaning, for it is our brave young men and women who willingly say goodbye to home in order to answer a call and serve a purpose greater than themselves, service based on courage, conviction, passion for justice, and strength of heart, mind, and character. We honor today our country's men and women who have led and lead still the fight for freedom, for the world is not yet the way it will one day be, when your purpose, O God, is fulfilled for all of creation. Our veterans now and in the past are the protectors and defenders of this nation in our time upon this earth. And yet it is you, O God, who in steadfast love and faithfulness hold and sustain us through it all. You know the depth of the suffering and sacrifice such service in the midst of conflict around the world has cost, but also the breadth of the ultimate victory already won through sacrifice. You are our shield, O God. All things work together for good, not because of or in spite of our doing, but because in your great mercy you have willed it to be so. Grant us peace and healing which the world, even with all the striving of its best sons and daughters, cannot ultimately give. Grant us courage and wisdom for the living of our days, trusting that you are, in the words of the great hymn, a mighty fortress, a bulwark never failing, our helper amidst the flood, prevailing over all mortal ills. Your spirit and your gifts are ours. And though this mortal body the earthly powers may kill, yet nothing have our enemies won, for your truth abideth still, and your kingdom is forever. Amen. So be it.
Diana always does such an outstanding job, helps us get to the next place in our program also. So if you would please stand for God Bless America, the playing of taps by Kenneth Weir, who's watching us from above, and the retirement of the honor guards. Let's say thank you to our honor guard and to our first responders who are always a wonderful part of our ceremony. Sunnyvale Boy Scout Troop 466 was with us today also. This is the second year they've come to help us, so let's give them a hand for participating. You can have a seat, please. I want to thank you all for coming, invite you back next year. We do it on the official Veterans Day, 11/11/11, so you can't forget it. It's November 11th at 11 o'clock. We do it every year right here. We'd like you to come back next year. And I should remind you, because Dennis Whitaker's in the audience somewhere. Where are you, Dennis? Dennis is right here, that Wreaths Across America is December 14th. And I think there may be someone with a table out there that you can get information on. It's a very moving ceremony. They actually have honored me to be their MC since they started it, I guess, huh? Also, there are flowers out here. Somebody hold a couple of those flowers up so everyone can see. If you'd come forward and get some flowers and just take them to the statue or to the Wall of Honor or your favorite paver, wherever you would like to, and say your own personal thank you. We also would like to tell you that we are still engraving pavers, so you can still get a paver for someone you know or someone you love, or just in honor of veterans in general. And Donna does all of that, but the paver application is as you walk in here, and I'll put some up here also. So thank you for coming. Thank you for remembering our veterans, our active duty military, and our first responders. And have a wonderful day. Thank you.